Good evening and welcome to the work session. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us this evening. We always like to remember why we're here by reading our mission and vision. And our mission is to foster an environment to educate and empower all students today to become global citizens of tomorrow. And the vision is that the Baldwinsville community is committed to providing equitable and diverse learning experiences that educate and empower students, allowing each individual to thrive. Tiffany, we have roll call, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and we are very happy to welcome our visitors from BOCES. And Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. So this evening we have Dr. Matt Cook, who is here. He's the OC and BOCES District Superintendent. He'll talk to us a little bit about some of our services that we participate in here in Baldwinsville and the relationship that we have with OC and BOCES. He also has two board members with him as well. I'll let him introduce them.
Thanks, and thanks for having me. Really enjoy being able to spend some time with you each year and talk a little bit about the BOCES services and the BOCES relationship. But before I get into that, we just want to acknowledge we have our board president, Bob Crabtree, and our board vice president, Joan Reeves, in attendance with us today. I know Joan has long-standing roots with Baldwinsville, so we're happy to be here tonight. What I wanted to be able to do is talk a little bit about the relationship between BOCES and Baldwinsville and use some specific services and specific numbers. And I've been doing this for the last few years, and so I always try to think about what's a new angle and what's maybe a new way to be able to talk about this a little bit. And I guess I'll start by saying this. The relationship between Baldwinsville and OC and BOCES is a very strong one and a very positive one, and we're appreciative of it. One of the things that we talk about all the time in our organization is that BOCES doesn't exist without our component districts. And so for us, we're always trying to find the sweet spot between meeting the needs of the districts and responding to the needs of the districts, and also sometimes finding ways to help lead and provide new ideas and new solutions, because everybody in the districts are so busy getting everything done that sometimes you don't have the time to be able to stop and think about those things. So that's really where our head is at, and that's really how we try to operationalize and think about our services. One of the other things that I wanted to thank the Baldwinsville community for was we had a capital project vote. BOCES has not done a major capital project in well over 25 years. It's been, our facilities are tired, and they need the same kind of love and care that everybody else's facilities needs, because they're your kids and they're all of our kids, right? And so we want to make sure that they have what they need to be successful, and so we needed some upgrades. We had a well over 80% positive vote on that last fall, and I know that the Beeville community came out strong, and so we're appreciative of that as well. Now, I've passed out the snapshot of services for Baldwinsville, and so probably the place to start, because the annual meeting for BOCES is coming up, I think, on April 7th, and then the vote is April 20th for the administrative portion of the budget. And so, according to Education Law 1950, all component school districts have to vote on the administrative portion of the budget. The rest of the budget, the rest of the services, as we like to say, you vote with your feet. So whatever it is that is working for you and that you want to continue, you subscribe for, and everything else, you can make the decision about what's working and what's not working by either joining the COSR or not. And so the best way to, I think, to look at this sheet is to look at that front cover, and the Baldwinsville portion of the administrative budget for BOCES is $230,000. Now that's not an insignificant amount of money, so we're appreciative of that. But then the next box, I want to point something else out. If you didn't, if you weren't part of BOCES, right? If you were outside of the BOCES system, you would not be able to benefit from things like cooperative purchasing. And so, while the administrative portion of the budget is $230,000, you save roughly $314,000 on cooperative purchasing alone. And so, right away, that pays for your administrative portion of the budget, and it's an extras of $83,000 on top of that. So, I'd like to try to point that out. Also, you're part of the energy savings program. I'll get into that in a minute or two. The BOCES budget is about 7.3%, the BOCES contract is about 7.3% of your initial budget. And that's a reasonable number for a district your size. What we generally find is that larger suburban districts have a percentage under 10 and over 5. That's pretty typical. And smaller rural districts have a percentage that's usually somewhere between 10 and 20, depending on how many services they need. The smaller the district you are, the more you need to rely on BOCES services, and so that's not surprising. But by purchasing services through BOCES, you've saved almost $5 million, or you received almost $5 million in BOCES aid back in terms of your budget. So hopefully that's helpful to you to understand sort of the facts and figures and the numbers of it. So now I'm just going to walk you through, and I'm not going to go, don't worry, I'm not going to go through the entire, every one of these services. Joe did say I had about an hour, but I'm only going to take 10 minutes. And so what we want to do is just sort of at a high level point a couple of things out, right? I think most people, when you think of BOCES, think about the student services side of the house. And so on the second page, that's the right column there, where we're spotlighting a few different things, including the portrait of a graduate and how our new tech schools, particularly we have a number of students who go to Innovation Tech here in this community from Baldwinsville, really exemplifies project-based learning, which is at the heart of a lot of what we're talking about when we're talking about making the change to the New York Inspires Initiative and portrait of a graduate. I'll also point out that we're starting one new service and a service here that we just wanted to highlight. So we got some feedback that there would be interest in having like a video game design CTE program. And so one of the things that I wanted to just point out in this process is when we hear that kind of thing, we do a pretty thorough analysis to try to figure out, okay, what's the market look like? If we open up a program like that, what's the research say that we're going to be, what's the cost benefit analysis, what's the return on investment for districts? And so what we discovered is that we could what we discovered is that we can embed some of those core principles in that program into our already existing media marketing and communications program. And so we're adding a component for that into that program. And so that'll be kicking off in the fall, and so we're really looking forward to that. Having a standalone program, what we're always nervous about is we don't want that to cannibalize another program, right? If we have too many competing programs and there's enough similarity, then kids aren't sure what to apply for and how that'll work. We want to make sure that our programs are rich in the offering. So that one I just wanted to point out. And then the second piece that I wanted to point out is that we're going to be starting a vet tech program in Onondaga County in the fall. That came after component district board member approached us who had ties to the veterinarian community and really pointed out the need for that. And I can tell you as a pet owner, there is a significant need for this. And so we're really excited about what we're going to be able to bring to that. And that'll have a few different layers. We want people to be able to come out of that program and start as a vet assistant, and then maybe have the skills that they need to move on to that tech program, or if they're interested in becoming a veterinarian, obviously that program is not going to get them there, but it will give them a real exposure to the field and help them test that out a little bit. So lots of different layers to that. On the left side, under instructional support services, that's the side of BOCES where we do a tremendous amount of professional development for administrators and staff, and we also offer some student programming through that. So, we have our curriculum instruction group that Renee is part of, run through ISS. We operate principal groups through there that many of your principals participate in. But the student program I wanted to point out had to do with the LEGO League. A couple of years ago, Baldwinsville hosted it, and we were thrilled with that. This year, North Syracuse hosted it, but Beeville still has a place and a focus. And so that's just one of those really feel-good kinds of programs. And the kids have a great time with it. This year, coming out of our region, Casanova is going to go on and represent the states, so they've done really well. So we've had a lot of student success out of those programs. If you go to the next page, we'll talk a little bit about business and management services participation, and you can see from the yellow column that Baldwinsville has access to a large number of the programs in this part of the house. So the Affordable Care Act, tracking and reporting, you're doing that internally, that's great. You also are large enough where most of our, you can see on the chart, most of our larger suburban districts don't access the central business office services because you have enough of a need to be able to do that in-house yourself as well. But many of those other programs and offerings you do access. I just wanted to point out the New York State School and Municipal Energy Consortium, given where we are in the world right now with energy prices. We locked in with energy prices a 3-year deal on that, and so that's going to hold the energy portion of those prices down, but also the transportation portions of those prices and getting the fuel here, those costs are still going to go up. So your energy costs are going to continue to rise, but being part of this consortium means that the bulk of that energy cost is going to be maintained for the next few years. So it's another great example of that sort of concept of cooperative purchasing, right? If districts all go in together, then you're able to lock in better prices at a larger volume. So just wanted to point that out. And then again, back to students, right? We always highlight at least one student coming out of Baldwinsville, and Garrett McDermott has been an outstanding welding student for us. So just wanted to be able to shine a little bit of a flashlight on him. And then before we turn it over to the back cover, also wanted to point out that arts and education program in the instructional support services. That is the coaster by which we were able to work on the partnership with people around the purchasing of all musical instruments, which has been fantastic for the whole region. So appreciate that partnership with Baldwinsville. On the back, we also run the Central New York Regional Information Center, the CINURIC. One of the themes that we have in BOCES as we continue to talk about our services is BOCES is more than you know. And that's been sort of an ongoing campaign of ours for the last year or two. And the CINURIC, I think, is a great example of that. Most people don't have any understanding of what that is. And the fact that every school district uses a tremendous amount of technology, instructional technology, means that the CINURIC and all the tech services that they supply is incredibly important. We literally prevent hundreds of attacks a week from foreign nations and within the United States of people trying to get into our system. I can remember a time when we all kind of thought that, well, schools aren't probably going to be super vulnerable. We don't have any information that's that interesting, but well, we've got a lot of student information and social security numbers and all kinds of pay information. Schools get attacked on a regular basis. And I always am loath to say this out loud because the minute I feel like I say I'm jinxing us, but the network hasn't gone down and the attacks have been thwarted by and large in any significant way for the last several years. And the team over there just does a tremendous job continuing upgrading the system. One of the things that we are talking about right now is an upgrade to what's called the wide area network, the WAN. All of the school districts in our BOCES are connected through computer systems, and then we also service 3 other BOCES regions and all of the school districts there. So the CINURIC services 50 districts. We have an off-site location where backup servers are held, just in case of a catastrophic loss. There's a tremendous amount of planning that goes into that. So if one part of the system goes down, there's a lot of redundancy built in the system so the rest of the system can respond. So we're very fortunate to have excellent people there providing that kind of backup work. So now we come to the portion of the conversation where I'm opening it up to any questions. Happy to place up the superintendent. If you have a specific question about a service, I may or may not be able to answer it in depth, but I'll certainly get back to you if I can't.
So I just have a couple of questions on a lot of depth. In the sort of business management services section, corporate recruiting and person calling service. Do you know each of those costs?
I don't have the cost off the top of my head, but I can get it to Joe and he can get it to you. Those are 2 relatively inexpensive services. I think the cooperative recruiting piece, that's the pay as you go. So like you only would access that if you were looking to do advertising. Essentially, that's another way for us to buy in bulk, so we get a reduced rate for our districts to be able to advertise.
And we do, so we do actually, Dave's office works with the folks over at BOCES to do all of our newspaper and online advertising for open positions. Tiffany's looking, maybe before the next question, she'll be able to tell us how much we actually spend on those services you mentioned.
Appreciate the question. Any other questions?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we're ready to do the department updates, and Joe, you have an order there, I think. don't you?
Yes. So we're going to ask all of our instructional and non-support staff, instructional leads to come up, find a place at the table. There's plenty of seats, I think, for all of you. And we're going to start off with, so work through this, just like last year. Renee, Dave, Gary, Tiffany will all respond, kind of lead and introduce the other directors and supervisors that will be walking us through. But as you're going to see throughout the presentation this evening, all of the communication, the connections to their updates tied to our district strategic plan in those areas that are identified as part of that honeycomb structure. So, for example, when we start off at the beginning with human resources, Dave's going to talk about the Ladanza program and then how that connects to our strategic plan. Before he does that though, we do have numbers. So Tiffany will share the numbers you were asking.
Yeah, the recruiting service is, there's a base fee of $1,200 annually, and then there's an additional fee based on our average daily attendance of $3,300. And then there, for the sub-calling service, it's $14,195 annually. And again, it's posted needed.
Thank you.
All right, so just to do a quick overview of a little bit of human resources areas. Starting off with the Baldwinsville, we just actually just finished up our interviews with our next batch of candidates that will be coming forward to start the program. And we've been doing that for the last couple of years, and it seems to be, it's slow going, but a good, partnership with Syracuse University and a good process that we go through to meet candidates and try to bring in the best quality candidates and continue to support diversity and equity within the district. The next thing I want to talk about a little bit is the collective bargaining and the recruitment and retention. So we are actually working on finishing up a couple contracts this year, BTSSA and then our sub-teachers contracts, and then into next year, starting back over with CSEA, and then, we'll go back through that process. And I think we've been really negotiating some strong contracts that are sustainable and mutually beneficial between the districts and the staff, the units that we're negotiating with, so that we can continue to recruit high-quality employees and also retain the employees we have. And we've seen that our previous contracts, just to give you an idea, when we negotiated with CSEA, we've seen an increase in hiring and having more bus drivers and people in that unit. Where we were struggling over the last few years since COVID, and we're starting to get back on track with that, so it's been really beneficial. The other thing I kind of wanted to share with you is just to give you an idea of where we are with the hiring this school year and the number of candidates that we're getting for the different positions. And I can post this also in the Friday letter as well for everybody, but we just recently are starting to wrap up our hiring for the Derby principal position. We had 13 candidates, and that's actually pretty good for a principal position when you think about, you know, the number of qualified people with experience coming from the positions and applying for that. Physical education, we had 35 candidates, and we're working through a couple positions there. Visual and performing arts, this one we only had 3 candidates, and these are really specialized areas, so it is tough to recruit these areas. And Chris Denton has done a lot with that. We work with Sarah Buckshot, and Chris has also worked with different organizations within the music departments to reach out and do some recruiting with that, which has been great. Secondary education, we had technology teachers, we've had 8. That's been a really, you know, we lost about 3 to 4 technology teachers this year, so one of the things that we've done with that is the high school principal, Jen Turpinning, has worked with us week ago, where they, you know, go in there and they've done some mock interviews with the different people coming out of that class. And we were able to provide them with some information and the QR code sheets and things like that, so they can click on it and apply right to our district. We've gotten a couple candidates from that, which has been great. But again, 8 candidates there. During the English teacher, we had 12, Baker Science 6. Special education for the high school, we had 9 candidates, and special education for elementary school, 23 candidates. Speech teacher, we have 8 candidates, and our anticipated elementary openings, which we only got a couple at this point, we just showed up, we got 64 candidates. So not too bad. I think we're doing pretty good, and we're getting a number of good quality candidates.
Quick question, Dave.
Yep.
You've got it here, so you've got you've got, for each, I'm just looking at the 2 lists, the Baldwinsville and the recruitment. You got DEI and then teaching quality. How do you score DEI?
Say that again?
How do you score DEI?
Score it?
Yeah.
I don't score it, I wouldn't say.
How do we evaluate it in teacher applications?
Go ahead.
So the directors do the first screening interview, and one of our questions in the screening interview explicitly asks candidates kind of about their idea of equity and how they make sure students are seen within their own curriculum. So without giving away the complete question,
Right.
we do specifically ask during the screening interview what that looks like, and then from there at the building level, there's also another question that gets at the culturally responsive teaching side of things, and then we look for that in their performance interview through their lesson plan, the different strategies they have in place to reach all students.
Yes, let me approach that question differently then. So what's considered, like, what would be a good answer to those questions be compared to a bad answer?
Yeah, so we look at how they are willing to use different texts and resources to make sure students have options, and that they're invested in finding a way to reach all students. So sometimes that's through different articles that they might pull. In a math class, that might be talking about famous mathematicians and highlighting a variety of mathematicians so that students see themselves in the mathematics classroom and in the curriculum. So there's a variety of ways that we look for that, and depending on the subject area that they're interviewing for, it would look different each time.
Might also be that in the response, when we think about student programming and getting access to students to all types of curriculums and experiences, when you think about advanced level or AP level or college level accelerated programs. So are they coming to the interview with a mindset that every kid has the ability and or the option of pursuing those types of courses and rigor, as opposed to coming in with a deficit-focused orientation where they're not going to be capable of doing it. So when we think about equity and we think about inclusion and we think about diversity, it's around all of those areas, not necessarily what the national rhetoric around DEI is. Speaking specifically of the down to candidates too, that program and that partnership with Syracuse University is a program that hopes to recruit and retain teachers who come with a broad life experience and perspective. So it can be people who have been, like for example, this year specifically, there were candidates that this is their second career or degree that they're pursuing. They were in the military. They worked in the science field, and now they're going to pursue a teaching degree at the university. So those are the types of candidates that this program is bringing in to districts that participate. It's not, what might be perceived.
Yeah, no, and I'm not talking about headlines, I'm talking about the way we recruit. That's the reason I'm asking this question is because it's kind of tied to the question about our cooperative recruiting with BOCES. One of the things that I've seen schools do here in New York and in other places, they talk about having teachers that look like the community, right? Teachers that kids can relate to. And a lot of this is based on a shared culture or shared race or shared socioeconomic background or something like that. And what happens a lot is that, and I'm not saying this, I'm just using people as an example. I haven't looked at any numbers, I don't know if this is true here or not. But districts that look like ours say, we need to be diverse in our hiring and we need to find the right kinds of teachers. And what we end up doing from a practical perspective is we end up, going, and again, just an example, just because we're here. This is actually mostly based on experience in Chicago. Suburban school districts will go into an inner city school district and they'll cream the faculty. They'll take the very best teachers they've got out of those inner city schools so that they can check a box for recruiting, and for looking the right way, and for having the right flavor of teacher. And what we do is we end up hurting inner city schools that are already hurting a whole lot more than districts like ours are. And so when we talk about equity, I think that sometimes gets left behind in the recruiting process.
So one of the things that we think about our partnership with OC and BOCES and other districts, I mean, you see the numbers. There's a limited pool of qualified candidates for positions, and this is across the state. That's why there's a lot of work being done at the university level, at the state level, with New York State school boards, New York State Council of School Superintendents, the governor's office, to try to get more people in the pipeline to be educators. But because we all know that, and we don't want to pull from people, we can't necessarily control whether somebody applies. But we are mindful of the fact, especially for OC and BOCES, because our students, as Dr. Cook mentioned, are going to those programs. Anytime we pull a staff member from OC and BOCES and hire them in a suburban district or a city district or wherever within our region, it pulls from that location, which is ultimately where our kids are also going. So all of us are mindful of that, and so we're not looking at candidates to purposely take, right? We're trying to be mindful of that, but we're also open to the fact that people have interest, and if they want to work in this district, which Dave mentioned before, all the great things we were trying to include in our contracts and the experiences that our staff and employees have here, they're going to want people are going to want to be here. But we're mindful of the fact that, taking from one place isn't always the most appropriate plan of attack. And that's not a priority on our end. I mean, we're going to hire the highest quality person, but we're also aware of the fact that there's a shortage across the board. And, us taking from others doesn't necessarily help the region as a whole, to your point.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that in the past, we would have posted a position, maybe when I first started in HR, and you might have 200 applicants for an elementary position, and there wasn't a ton that I needed to do with recruitment. That has changed fairly drastically, and what, myself and other HR people across the area are focused on is casting a wide net to get as many people to see the positions and put their applications in so that we can, give people a look and see what's out there, as opposed to keeping things, it used to be more of a very localized thing, that there's a few colleges in the area, we put the message in the paper and people apply. That's not really what we have now. In some of the more specialized positions, we really do have to cast a wide net to try to find the best quality candidates.
Can I follow up on that?
Yep.
So could you talk a little bit about what you do, what you mean when you say you're casting a wide net? What are some of the action steps you take?
So when you're talking about casting the wide net, it's just looking at all the different possibilities to recruit, right? So we use a lot of social media stuff. I mentioned that Chris is brought things this year from his position into, what were the names of those places, Chris?
We used a couple of national organizations that are involved with stage and screen to find people that have backgrounds and expertise in the area that we were looking.
Yeah.
We ended up hiring somebody local, but at the same time, we did get some candidates that were, coming from college programs that were
North
going to those
Carolina,
national sites, so.
Lieutenant Yale and things
Yep,
like that.
yeah, so that was
And that was there, and then I mentioned, that some of the partnerships that the administration has with the colleges, where they're partnering the school administrators that are supporting the colleges and coming into the colleges doing mock interviews, and I've worked with Sarah Buckshot to create different types of informational stuff that we can give, like, to the candidates when they're there, and we have the QR codes, it has all of our jobs, so when they click on it, it takes them right to our website with our positions. We're actually next Monday gonna be at SU doing a recruitment day. We've done a few of those. Those are kind of hit and miss depending on, the area. It's good to do the ones local. We've done some out of the area, in the past, and typically the students in that area are looking to stay closer to those areas, so we don't get as many, but we get a few. So little things like that, but really the social media, has been a big one, because that's where people are seeing most of the stuff. We've been able to reach out there, and then also, like I said, develop things like the QR code and different ways to get to that, to see our website for recruitment.
The only other thing I would add is that all of the professional organizations were reaching out to those groups as well and their listservs. So, for example, when we had music hiring, we've reached out to the New York State Music Educators Association. Similarly, we do the same thing with the New York State English Teachers Association or math, you name it, just to try to get as much out there, especially for those higher needs areas where we know that there is not a lot of numbers and not a lot of people that we can pull from. Any other questions for Dave or us regarding human resources before we transition to athletics?
Right, with athletics, we.
Chris, do you want to use the microphone?
Oh, yeah. Is that on?
Yeah, you can be me.
The last time that we spoke, we were just beginning to really offer more opportunities at the modified level. And I'm pleased to, say that we did offer 2 at the winter 1. We were able to add 2 modified teams along with winter 2. So kind of keeping our tradition of giving kids opportunities throughout the course of the year, increasing social emotional development is something that we've been able to do this past winter, with hopes to add modified teams for the spring and to continue to add for the fall as well. So that was definitely some more information that I was able to share with the last time that we spoke. In terms of athletic recognition, I know a couple years ago, Dr. DeBarber brought up the fact that we were just honoring a lot of our state participants in athletics, and we made a change with last year with honoring the Section 3 champions as well, which gives us the opportunity as a district to show our appreciation to our student athletes. That winning a section title is a big deal. And it's been great to have those student athletes here being recognized and giving them that opportunity. Excuse me. Last time we met was when we spoke about the Scholar Athlete for the fall, and we had 13 out of our 13 teams that did achieve that. Last week I was able to do the winner, and we had 10 out of our 12 winter varsity teams achieve that, and that's based on the team's average of 75% of the roster must be greater or equal to 90%. So another way that we're obviously doing things on and off the sport field and in the classroom. I also mentioned we signed 15 student athletes in the fall for colleges, letters of intent. We're also going to hold another one this spring, so that number will add to that, and I'll make sure to share that information, and we'll get the information out when that time comes for the national letter of intent for the spring. The other part that I wanted to talk about was the facility upgrades. It's beyond prideful being on campus. And I know many of you as a board were here for the ribbon ceremony at the Derby Gym. But having these amazing facilities has really brought a big sense of pride to our school, to the district. It's benefited all of the students. It's benefited athletics, it's benefited the arts, the coaches, teachers. And it's really a great example of how the district, the community comes together in these projects to put our students first. And it's really nice to be able to see that. Obviously, last couple of years, not having some of the facilities may have been a small challenge, but you can see what the benefit is of that. And obviously, with what we're doing with the Baker Gymnasium and the pool under construction, and with the future projects that we have coming our way. I'm also pleased to announce, maybe some of you have known or have not known this, but we did put a bid in to host the state championships for field hockey, which is a pretty detailed process to go through. A lot of it's great work to do, but the fact that we won the bid was really where you can be excited about what we have in store for us. So 2027 through 2020 or 2029, we're going to be hosting the state championships in field hockey here to showcase obviously our wonderful facility and our community at the state level. So that was really cool to be able to win that bid. And the last part is something I mentioned last year, and I've got to give our health teachers, Gina Gates, Kristen Slummer, and staff with Jen Sawyer and Meredith Truly, who've been working to train our students in the team mental health. We'll have at the end of this year, we'll have around 400 students that have been trained and equipped to recognize signals of mental health challenges in their peers, provide initial support, and connect them with trusted adults and the mental health professionals as needed. But being able to have over 400 kids from last year to this year is really a great fleet of kids that are able to have this information. The staff's been great to work with, and to be able to locate, see, and help each other out, under circumstances with mental health. And that's all I have. Sorry for my voice, but I lost it.
Any questions for Chris?
Yeah, I actually have a question about having our bid accepted for the field hockey championships. Was it because of the new facility? Is that?
I would say that has a big part of it.
Right.
There's a lot of checklists that they have to do
Sure.
in terms of hotels, staff, parking. But to answer that question, it's a really big process that does get dissected through all the other schools that are bidding as well. So to be able to get that on our first try really does show what type of facility that we have, and it will be pretty cool to be able to
For sure.
to host that for 3 years.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are no other questions from Chris. We will transition to food services, and Tiffany is going to give an update regarding food service.
So we're continuing into our third year of the community eligibility program, which started off in January of 2024. We offer now free meals for all students, which goes along with our cultural responsiveness for diversity and equity and improving student achievement. For the month of February, we were able to service 47,500 lunch meals for students, and 17,498 breakfast meals for students. And we appreciate the board's support of additional positions for our breakfast program. And we are also continuing our farm to school program with Onondaga County, which incorporates more local fresh produce into our student meals. We are currently undergoing a program assessment with a brigade, and they will be reviewing our program for healthy and fresh local produce in our meals, as well as conduct some training for our staff to work on scratch cooking meals. And we are also implementing a new point of sale system for our food service program, which will provide cutting edge technology along with additional safety for real-time dietary restrictions as students go throughout our food service lines. Anybody have any questions regarding food service? Our meals, just so you're aware, our participation has doubled since the beginning of the community eligibility program. We went from 30% participation to 59%. It's really great.
How was the staff's ability to respond to that increase?
Yeah, so our staff's been wonderful. They've been working really hard to get the meals out. We have increased some staffing over time since the beginning of the program, but those 4 elementary breakfast positions are new to help assist with that. Yeah. Okay. Going into facilities, we have completed our lead and water testing, and we are not due for another 3 years. We have addressed any incidences that came up through that process, and we have done completed retesting. The board did approve for us to participate in the RFP with City BOCES for the next 3-year process. We are also looking at battery management and storage for our safety updates. We have worked on new procedures, and we're looking at new storage cabinets that are fire rated for our batteries. And so with technology updates, we're also, we've this year implemented flat camera systems, which help our SROs and SRPOs to notifications of potential threats that may come onto campus. We also are incorporating higher resolution cameras throughout the district with our projects and our annual $30,000 through the state funding. We also have installed vape detectors in some of our secondary buildings, and we're working through training and procedures with that. And as you know, we continue to utilize our threat detection devices in each of our buildings. And we also have our new central receiving for new secure central storage for our food service program on the main campus now. And we've transitioned that out of the gray basement. Any questions regarding that?
I was actually going to ask about that. So how has that worked? Is that with the central receiving and with the food program, is that everyone's happy with how that's been, and it's
Yeah.
made things easier and more efficient and all that
It's
fun stuff?
wonderful. Yeah, so now the tractor trailers can make deliveries that aren't on the main school campuses. It's kind of offset, and we're able to, we have a new food service truck that we've been utilizing to help get food out to the different buildings as needed, in preparing for their program. So it's been really great, and it also has a backup generator. So if the freezer or cooler were to go down, we have that there.
So that building got repaired, that was the building that had to have the
The roof
repairs.
replacement, the
Yeah.
roof was just done, I think, last week.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's wonderful.
During that long stretch.
Joe, quick question, have we ever had any requests from families for kosher or halal food?
I would have to ask,
We-
I'm pretty sure we do.
We do.
But that would be something that the request would go right through the building and then to our food service director and the dietitian that works with our district. One of, just to kind of preview what you're gonna see in this coming Friday's weekly letter to you, we talked about this morning, is a proposal to bring on the dietitian here in the district. Right now, we work with OCM and BOCES through a cooperative COSA agreement, but given the needs and the significant increase that we've seen with the community eligibility program, our food service staff believe that we have the need for a full-time, basically, person here with us. And so that is something that you'll see a memo in this coming Friday letter to you. And I would point out that because of the community eligibility funding or program and the funding that we've received, it wouldn't be an added cost to our general fund budget. It would be a cost that would be covered by our food service program. So I do think the fact that we would have that person here full time helps to make those special dietary restrictions, I guess, more manageable when we look at it from that perspective.
Do we meet those requests currently?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, yep. If there's a, similar to other allergy, well, it's different for, that perspective, but any allergen or allergy related requests too could meet those expectations.
And with and I don't know if for the county academic year, I don't know if the state's still doing the free and reduced lunch program for everyone. But does that, does resources from the state change based on what we provide in terms of special services for food?
So
we have, dietary restrictions that we have to work within the meal guidelines, so that's how we qualify for funding, by staying within those guidelines. And right now we assist with dietary restrictions, but we can't necessarily make all accommodations for all, preferences for food options, but we do our best with that, and I think having the dietitian here regularly would assist with that.
I was wondering if the state accounts for that in some way. I'm assuming the cost isn't the same, right?
So because we're still part of the National Food Lunch Program, and that's where all of those guidelines are coming from. So the state, I think there's two things we have to remember. We were a community eligible program prior to the state funding free meals for every district in the state. So I think, we're still meeting those expectations. We're getting our funding through that program. I don't anticipate it changing. I haven't seen anything in the governor's proposal or even the the House and the Senate proposals that were shared. I didn't see anything where they were looking to scrap any of that.
And the governor supported that program, so it looks like that will be continued so far with it.
I think one of the other things, because you bring up that question, which actually kind of ties into the facilities and the capital improvement work that's on the next slide, but as we're continuing to update our facilities and part of our $242 million project, we are, when we're touching a building, we are going in and doing work within those kitchens as well, which I think speaks to the fact that, as we're renovating those spaces, it's going to make it a lot easier for our staff to do the work that they need to do to make sure that our students, got what they need. So when you think about the scratch cooking that Tiffany mentioned as part of a program that we're supporting, obviously if there's restrictions, it's going to make it easier for us to be able to do that as opposed to relying on those pre-cooked and pre-packaged products, which maybe aren't quite healthy.
Fair enough. One thing that just popped into my head, and I don't know the answer to it, it's not necessarily a terribly fair question. And it's not meant to be a gotcha question, it just came to me. Does a student have to sort of demonstrate in some way? So let's say, I'm a practicing Christian, I'm an ordained pastor. If I am 10 and I walk into the cafeteria and I say, I'd like kosher food, is there some sort of thing, do I have to have filled out a form or something? Do I have to not really qualify, but do I have to be able to demonstrate that this is actually something that I'm supposed to have?
So, like I said, we can only right now accommodate dietary restrictions, which come with the physician's note. But there are preferences, and we do try to work with those families, but we don't require them to provide us with anything. We do the best we can to offer options that they can choose from.
Awesome.
All right, capital projects. We are in our second phase of the $32.8 million project. We have completed the new gymnasium, family and consumer science rooms, the weight room, our office spaces, an OT PT room. This next phase, we're working on finishing the kitchen, the new cafeteria space, as well as science rooms, music, art, and tech, as well as we are putting in some new sprinkler systems into the library. So that is ongoing. And then with our Baker for 63.9 million. As you know, we have completed our athletic fields, and we're continuing to work on the new gymnasium and pool, as well as a new athletic entrance and science rooms. And we'll also be working on the driveway in the following summer. And then the $242.4 million project, we're working on phase 1A of getting the contracts completed and hopefully construction in the next couple of weeks, getting started there with the new addition at Ray, as well as parking and driveway updates, main office, nurse's suite, and some interior classrooms and restroom updating. We'll also be working on the new bus loop at Reynolds Elementary School, and we're also working on carpet replacements and windows at Ray, as well as a new kitchen and cafeteria update. And then we will be submitting for phase 1B with renovations at Eldon and Palmer in this May.
Do we anticipate the construction at Ray being limiting for the students, or it's really mostly outside of the existing space?
So there will be some limits to interiors. We have some of those interior rooms that have windows that are being utilized, space that would have traditionally been used for maybe some support services or office type space. Over time, we've taken over those and made them classrooms. So we are going to be reducing a few classrooms, but there's enough space around the building to accommodate that. The building principals have been working with the staff. We actually have seen some changes this school year for the second half of the year where rooms have been given up so that construction can start, which they're ahead of schedule actually for the art classrooms, the new classrooms, which should be available for the start of the school year. So we'll see a little bit of that next year, but the goal is with that new building coming on board, it could be sooner rather than later, if they follow the schedule that they've put out there, we might be sitting in a very good position for the start of the 27-28 school year with that building. So, which is exciting.
Moving on to transportation. Okay, so technology upgrades. As you know, we've implemented new tablets on all of our buses, which goes along with the student ID cards and also the My Ride app, which parents and families can check on the app for when their bus is going to be dropping off or picking up students and where their students are on their ride. We also have worked with the county's new camera system, the stop arm cameras, to help with safety while students and buses are on the roads. We also have a new fusion collision mitigation system on the school buses that assists with collision mitigation. And we have improved route efficiency now with our technology, with our routing software. And we now have, thank you to Danielle, school tool syncing with our routing software, which is awesome and really helps provide efficiency with our routes.
Can I just say, I know we've already said it before, but I want to say it again, this is one of the best technology improvements I've seen in terms of the community experiencing just an upgrade in their experience. Like, knowing your kid is like swiped in when they get on the bus and being able to see when they're gonna arrive at home is awesome. It's been great, yeah.
And then also, we're continuing to work on looking at reconfiguration of certain end times and what the routes might look like with that transition down the road.
Tiffany, with the state earmarking $100 million grant money for possibly upgrading some electric bus facilities, have we looked at looking at any grants for that?
So we have applied for funding for those items, and we have been awarded that. So more to come down the road, but that's, if we were to move forward, we've had our community vote that was not successful, so we may be looking at possibly engaging in the community further for thoughts on looking at electric down the road.
Thank you.
no other questions, we'll transition over to health services and Katie.
In health services, we had a really exciting year, something really to be proud of. The first bullet up there is access to services. This past week, last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we hosted for the first time the Healthy Smiles Dental Clinic, which brought dental care to 216 students that may have otherwise not seen the dentist and received preventative care for their teeth. So the program we applied for the program to come for UPK through 5 students. They can come every 6 months and service students that parents and guardians consent to that care. It doesn't mean we're not open to hosting the clinic for upper level students. The Healthy Smiles program recommended starting at our elementary age, running the clinic, and then applying for our additional buildings if we can do so in the future. But it was awesome. We had families email to say how thankful they were. Their students were afraid of the dentist. And what better place to get a dental cleaning, a toothbrush, and sealant than with your staff that you're comfortable with. So it was really nice. We also partnered this past summer, August, and then we did a clinic in September with the Onondaga County Health Department and Draco's Urgent Care. So we provided on-site immunizations to our students, and are proud to report that we only excluded 6 students out of our entire district for immunization. And it's not for lack of effort for the district, so we did everything we could to get those students their immunizations so that they didn't have to be excluded on that 14th consecutive day from school, which is by far the least amount we've excluded since I've gotten here. So it was awesome to see. We had many districts reach out to say, how did you do it? Give me the context. We want to bring it to our school. So Beeville's definitely going to be doing it again next year, and I think a lot of neighboring districts will do it as well. Access to service. We also this year got partnered with Wegmans to provide COVID and flu vaccines for staff and their families. That went well. And then this coming June is going to be our 5th year partnering with SUNY Upstate, the mammogram van, the big van that comes and parks outside of our operations building. So that's going to come this year on June 18th. Sarah Buckshot has already advertised that, and we have staff that utilize it as well as community members. So it's a great community partnership. Professional learning. So professional learning we've continued to do throughout the year. This year we brought stock epinephrine in the intranasal route this year. It's called Neffy. And so we've done some in-services with the nursing staff. That's something that I write a prescription for that's still through a new program. So Neffy just got FDA approved recently, and then New York State gave the designation that nursing staff can administer it, and we can train unlicensed lay staff to administer it. So I'm doing an upcoming PDC presentation on this Friday for interested staff members. But it's great. So we now stock intranasal epinephrine to give versus a shot for a student experiencing a life-threatening allergic reaction. We continue to offer BLS for the nursing team. We're doing, the district is partnering with AMR to come and do CPR AED training. We have 54 full sessions of staff that are signed up to get that this coming Friday. We continue to offer Stop the Bleed. I rally for MER team members at all building staff meetings. And then I continue to be welcome to do presentations, most recently for transportation on medical illness and injuries on the bus. So just education all around for students or for staff. And then oh sure.
Sorry, how many people do Stop the Bleed? Obviously it's not required for everyone, or is it just you can sign up if you?
Correct.
Okay.
So I wish more staff did it. We offer it every summer, and typically in the summer I'll divide it out into 2 separate groups. So staff that have never received the training before, and then staff to kind of get a refresh. And it was really cool. This summer we did the refresh group. AMR, the instructor came, and she had known a lot of the staff members, and she said, all right, we had this big tragic event. We're at Baker. We have severe life-threatening bleeding. Find something to stop it. And some of the staff members said, well, I don't work here. And she's like, people are bleeding to death in front of you, like, you have to do something. And she's like, oh, it was 3 minutes, like, the person would have passed away, right? And so it just shows the impact of that training. And so I kind of shared that with transportation staff. It's great training to have. I would say this summer we probably had, and I don't know the exact number, but I would say less than 30 But that's, you know, awesome training that we try to share with staff that's willing to get it. Because you don't need a tourniquet or a stop the bleed kit to stop the bleeding. We make makeshift tourniquets, and we teach interested people how to do that, how to save life, right?
I would just encourage you, probably have to put me in Luke's mind, because he'd say it if I wasn't saying it. As much as we can market it, push it, get staff on it. When we did, years ago, when we did the countywide study on major shooting events in schools, one of the top points for all of it was the numbers of students that died because there wasn't enough people around that knew how to stop the bleed. It's through the roof. And it's after the event's over, and kids are just in the hallway, you know. Parkland's the biggest example, and just to have everybody that can be trained on how to do something simple that saves so many lives in an event like that would just be huge to have as much of our staff, if not all of them, as possible. Sorry, Luke, took your thunder.
I think Luke brought that up last year, and we added additional training in the summer on professional development. I think we had a similar discussion last year, which was awesome, yeah.
And is he muted, or Luke, you can say something if you, there you go. We may not have sound. We got a thumbs up though, so thank you.
And then the last piece was alternate instruction. So this is any alternate instruction request. So requests for students that are unable to attend school for maybe a variety of reasons, a real, you know, life-changing medical event, mental health reasons, or, you know, different types of requests come in. And so I really worked really hard to collaborate with our community partners. We changed the process this year. Previously, when we had alternate instruction requests, we'd often get a note from a provider saying that I have a request for Katie, and I say that she needs home instruction. We've kind of reversed the process where if a family brings it up, we get a release to reach out to that community provider, and I call every single one of them, and I have conversations with them regarding, you know, what our offerings are in the school district, and a lot of them don't know. We can be unique to get students in our school buildings where our core content teachers are, where our support staff is to really help them be successful in school. And then we have a team meeting with the student, their family, their support team at school. I always invite their providers to attend the meeting, some do, some don't. And then we make a plan in regards to, you know, it's not a replacement for the full school day, but how can we get them the education that they need and deserve and meet them where they're at. So we've had a really great year. I think we've come a long way, Carrie and I, you know, the community partnership. So last year, we had 22 total students approved for alternate instruction last year. This year it's down to 16. The year before, 2 years ago it was 28, and the year before that was 57. So it continues to go down. This year we had 4 students that received home instruction, and these are students that they could not physically come to school. Every other student, we found an alternate instruction program to support them and eventually come back into our school buildings, which is awesome. And then the providers are starting to recognize my voice, to recognize, you know, that I've talked to you before, and I think, yes, you have. So it helps. We're getting the message out there that we want our students in school.
Good.
Can I add just to, one of the things that Katie didn't mention, but I think is important to mention, is the connection of these access to services to the improvement to student achievement. So you think about a student that has poor oral hygiene, potentially, who could have toothaches that prevent them from coming to school. So when we provide these types of access to services and catch those problems early and potentially connect parents to maybe more in-depth services, we can keep those kids in school. So I think that's a very important part of our work.
There are no questions. Katie will transition to student services.
Good evening. Each year we provide an update on our K-12 school counseling program, which is required by New York State and supports students' academic, career, and social emotional development. Our certified school counselors lower classroom lessons, individual planning, and targeted supports designed to remove barriers to learning and help students succeed in school and beyond. The program follows New York State guidelines, and the Ask of Mindsets and Behaviors framework is reviewed and updated annually every summer. Each building also develops an action plan focused on social emotional development, academic growth, and career readiness, using data to guide priorities. Last year, for example, we used BIMS data to strengthen our Tier 1 social emotional programming and Tier 2 interventions using a Grow the Green protocol. This summer, our focus will be to review our counseling plan alongside the Portrait of a Graduate, using crosswalk to ensure full alignment. The Portrait of a Graduate defines the skills and qualities we want all students to leave our district with: self-management, resilience, communication, collaboration, and future readiness. Our school counseling program is a critical driver in developing these competencies. Through SEL lessons, small groups, individual planning, and peer mediation, counselors provide the supports and guidance students need to build these skills over time. So the Portrait of a Graduate really sets that destination, and the school counseling program provides a pathway to help get there. Next, we want to highlight district wellness. This continues to be a priority in our district, supported through the collaborative work of our district wellness and mental wellness committees. A new initiative this year is a Beeville Spirit Drive. Since January, we have collected gently used spirit drives distributed to families in need, with plans to make these items available for the school's play drive this summer. We also continue to expand important training opportunities for staff in the community, including team mental health first aid for students, like Chris mentioned, and youth mental health first aid for staff. In recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month coming up in May, we would like to offer community-wide youth mental health first aid training and host our third annual Be Well Paint-a-thon, which will be May 2nd, if you want to come. Additional efforts for this month will include a district-wide wellness calendar, staff self-care opportunities, weekly mental health tips for families, and highlighting local agencies that support student mental wellness. We also continue to expand Therapeutic Crisis Intervention for Schools, or TCIS training. This training focuses on helping school staff prevent crisis, de-escalation, challenging behaviors, and respond safely and therapeutically so students can regain self-control and return to learning. The number of trained staff has grown from 118 last year to currently 203 staff members this year, creating a more consistent structure, shared language, and unified response across our schools that strengthens overall school climate. As we move forward, our focus will shift from the initial trainings to really that refresh and coaching opportunity, which are required to maintain certification and ensure staff continue to effectively apply these practices. Next, I want to highlight our crisis response team. This was created through OC and BOCES. This is a relatively new resource designed to support districts during times of crisis. The team is composed of trained professionals across all 23 component districts, such as social workers, psychologists, and so on. The team provides services such as care stations, individual and group crisis interventions, staff and student support circles, classroom relief, consultation, and connections to community resources. The team is activated when a crisis occurs in the district and is initiated by the superintendent. Earlier this month, our team was actually activated in a nearby school district. While these situations are always very difficult, they also highlight the strength and resilience of our school communities, providing staff and students space to grieve, process, and support one another. We are excited that BOCES is offering a second cohort to expand this team. Currently, we have 4 trained members from our district and plan to grow to 9 by the end of the school year, ensuring that our districts have strong immediate support when it's needed the most. We take pride in helping lift one another during challenging times. I do want to thank the board, Dr. DeBarbery, Carolyn Mockney, and building administrators for allowing us to do this important work.
So I just want to push down on the first piece, the school counseling comprehensive program. How many teachers, is this just general teachers and staff that are trained in this?
So we already have the plan in place, and then school counselors, social workers come together every summer to update the plan annually.
But you had mentioned like 218 people were trained?
Oh, that's for TCIS.
Okay, what's that?
So that's our therapeutic crisis intervention in schools, like it's a de-escalation training. And so it's really trauma-informed practices, and it's hopefully helping students before they get that outburst phase. So just teaching that language, productive strategies, things like that.
And who gets that training? Just general
So it's really,
teachers?
it's tier 1, so we want all staff, so
Okay.
teachers and TAs to do it. We obviously focus on our crisis teams first, so we have had all those people trained. And so now we open it up. We're really focusing on secondary because a lot of our elementary have already got the training. But it's a tier 1, 2, 3 framework.
So when you take that training, what's the hope that you're able to do?
Just really understand from a trauma lens, like behaviors, because behaviors is communication, and also trying to use a lot of different proactive strategies before students get to that outburst phase. So we're trying to prevent crisis from essentially happening. Yeah. Yep.
Jump in there and lead into the next slide too. So back in the day, this TCIS training used to be known as what we would call a physical restraint training. And that really is meant to be a last resort. So we've kind of flipped the switch on that, and we're using this therapeutic intervention support to be more proactive and preventative, because if we want to prevent that, we need to build up these strategies that come first with all of our staff. And so as a piece of that, we not only are providing that training to all of our staff, again, based on student-specific situations, the safety and injury reports that we're getting might be a preventative, proactive approach we'll take if we start seeing some of those forms, building principles, but we also have trainers in each building. So we used to use something called CPI, which really wasn't meant for schools. We're using this now, and we sent all of our social workers so that we have a consultant, so to speak, in each building, because we know you can go to a 4-day training and then come back, and some of these students and their behaviors are unique and emotional in the moment. This puts an on-site trainer there to model, observe, and interact with the staff to be able to do some more of that teachable consulting when we're seeing some of those behaviors.
Can I add one more thing too? And
Yeah.
one place we are focusing now is transportation, because we see a lot of behaviors on our bus. So how they offer that to that department as well.
So as far as in our office with students with services, a large portion of our work is sort of drives to support students labeled as having a disability, and we continue to follow the blueprint for results put out by New York State. But a keynote on this too is that those core principles that we follow, so they're good for all students. So sort of a win-win in our office, because we're also supporting all students with those principles. Family engagement, especially designed instruction, self-advocacy, research-based instruction, high-quality inclusion practices, work-based learning, all of those things help all of our students. One thing we could note is that next year the state audits or monitors, regulates all of these things in different ways. We are up for indicator 13 next year, which is the transition piece. It's very detailed. I won't bore you with all the pieces, but it's pretty cumbersome. We are expected to have 100% compliance in the IEPs that we're working on right now during this annual review process for the 26-27 school year will be the IEPs they'll be assessing. So it's, we have to have goals. It applies to any student 15 or older, and we have to have goals, do assessment, inventory interests, align their goals with what their interests are, what they might want to do post-secondary. It can be something as simple as self-advocacy, a student who maybe has a reading difficulty and a learning disability, and how those goals will support if they want to go to college or even just go to cosmetology. It has to align perfectly and be very specific. And it could also be very detailed. It could be a student working with OPWDD who might need to transition, at age 22 to more of a vocational or rehab setting. And what does that look like for those students? There should be agency involvement, and there should be pieces along the way to support the families to make sure that they are set up for success post-graduation. So just a note on that, that's kind of what a lot of our work is involving right now. I also know that you like statistics and data, so I did bring some for you. We continue to stay steady at 15% of our students that are identified. We currently have 809 students. Well, again, this is based on snapshot data because it changes daily in our office. We have 809 school-age students that are identified. That equates to about 15.2%, which is holding steady. That's a good thing. We are monitored on that. The national average is 15.2 and the state average is 18%. Greater than 80, we're at 86.5 of our students are included in the regular education setting, 80% or more of the school day, which again is much higher than neighboring school districts and the state and national average. But one thing I did want to point out, because I think that's also been pretty consistent the last few years, is we have less than 1% of our students that are in what you would refer to as a self-contained setting class program. And one of the things we're a little bit unique with in Baldwinsville is, that special education isn't a place, right? And so we're working with some of those programs that historically you might have known as a self-contained setting or program where it was a classroom, a student went and spent all day with a student, and integrating those students different portions of the day. So we're concentrating on that 40 to 79% of the day. How do we get those students who, that less than 1%, who are maybe really need programs like that, because we have to offer the continuum, to give them those diverse experiences and opportunities to integrate with their regular education peers throughout the day. And we are at less than 1% of our students that are spending, a full day in a self-contained program or setting. Christy, you had asked, it's sitting in my head a little bit about when we did the budget, you had asked a question about caseloads, and I don't remember the exact number, but I think we were looking at sort of the number of students that we were servicing and the number of providers, and I just remember I was like, well, it's not that high, I don't know off the top of my head what it is, so I had made it a mission to go back and kind of look at those numbers because it's important. And I knew it wasn't that high, but I think we were looking at, a lot of our students that are identified might just be speech impaired, right? And that's definitely an area where we can declassify students as they get older. So I did look at numbers specifically related to students who are identified and getting special education services. And at the elementary level, average caseload is 9 to 10 students. At the secondary level, an average caseload is 16 to 17 students. And that's been pretty consistent. I did look back. There's certainly sometimes bubbles. Like I could tell you that Baker's at 14, 15, Durkee's at like 17, 18. So there are sometimes cohorts that come up, but average-wise, we're at about 16 to 17 for secondary.
Yeah, and thank you so much for doing that. I think it's important when we're talking about the budget each year to make sure we're properly resourced, especially in these key areas. And you would know more than I do about, whether those numbers sound reasonable. I mean, they sound reasonable to me as a layperson.
They're definitely reasonable, but I will say where the stress comes from is there could be a larger cohort. You could have a 5th grade group that has, within this 16 kids in our caseload. You might have a 1st or 2nd grade cohort with 5. So, it is an average number, and there are certainly those bubbles of times where it feels like we're spreading a little thin, and I think that's where that comes from, and we are being very mindful of how we support those things. You've been meeting at every spring. Jenna, Melissa, and I are going out and meeting specifically with the elementary principals and psychologists to look at projections for next year, so that we're not trying to micromanage, but just making sure that they are adequately supported.
And as we plan for the 2026-27 budget that you approved on March 2nd, we do have flexibility within that budget to hire additional staff as needed, and that is conversations that we're having right now. As Carrie mentioned, once we get through the annual review process and we really get a sense of what those numbers look like, we do plan to potentially hire some additional staff in those buildings and or grade levels that might need an additional support in order to help with those numbers and to make sure that we have integrated co-taught settings that are reasonable across the board.
And Joe, that kind of takes me back to, Carrie, I wanted to go back to your very first number, the overall kind of participation rate, 15.2%, right? You said that number's been kind of consistent, right?
Yes.
How do we account for like attrition in it? Like how many kids does that 15.2 represent? And is it, are we counting persons, or are we counting individuals? Meaning that 15.2% can be 15.2% all the time, but it could be the same 15.2% for 5 years, or it could be multiples of.
Yeah, so what that 15.2% is based on is the number of identified students in the district. So the percent of identified students, so it's based on our enrollment, and it's based on our number of students that are identified. So we tend to use the October snapshot, which is our bed stay number. And it fluctuates a little bit because you can have a large cohort graduate of students who are identified. You might get a small number of students coming from preschool to school age that are identified. So it sort of becomes a wash, so to speak, as far as I'm concerned where those numbers are, if we're staying within a 1 to 2% range. throughout the year. You'll see that, I mean, I know just from looking at the numbers that historically our numbers might be down in October, they tend to be a little higher in the spring, because throughout the year we're getting referrals, whether it be parent or school building referrals, we're identifying students, then students graduate, and we kind of go back to this. As long as each fall we're staying within that range, I mean, I don't know that we're gonna get too worried about a 1 to 2% increase, but I think for me, the bigger piece is if historically longitudinal data shows a 1%, a 1%, a 1%, or vice versa, that we're declassifying students or maybe not identifying students. So I think I feel a little bit more comfortable with the stability of the percentage rate, if that makes sense.
And the reason I'm asking that question is I'm just thinking about resources, right? I mean, we're doing all kinds of build outs, all kinds of things, and I'm just wondering if it can, depending on the number of students compared to individuals, right? Every kid is different, and whether they're classified or not, every student is different, right? We teach differentiation to our teachers, right, for those purposes. I'm just want to make sure, I'm sure you guys are, I need to be comfortable with the idea that we're actually accounting for that as we're planning space and staffing and resources.
Part of the capital improvement projects and plans, we do take into consideration all of that information. And there's parts of the process when we go to get state approval where we have to have our plans and our architectural drawings reviewed by state associates tied to special education services. And so it is a part of the process. I mean, one of the things that I think everyone will see once we have some of these rooms renovated, and they're going to be expanded. They're larger, and the requirements are different than they were when these buildings were initially constructed. So you're going to see more space for students and for staff within the buildings, which I think speaks to the fact that we are taking all that into consideration.
Awesome. Good, thanks.
Almost done. Okay. So we are also still working on inclusive schooling. That's Julie Costin, and we've been doing some leadership series. We know that shifting mindset comes from leadership, and that we need to be consistent with that. And so we are still working with inclusive schooling. This year our focus has been on behaviors, communication, leading through emotion, and building systems of dignity and support. One last thing I wanted to talk about was the learning coaches we have in our office. I just need to kind of give them a little bit of a shout out. We do have Jen Sawyer. Team Hall First Aid was mentioned. I do want to say she's the national leading instructor in Team Hall First Aid. We were given a shout out in what's great in the state last year at their annual conference for Team Mental Health First Aid. It's my understanding that the governor may also mandate Team Mental Health First Aid, and we're the only district I know in New York State that's doing it, so I think we'll be in good shape. I kind of hope it happens. So, and then she's doing a lot of TA training as well. Lori Johnstone, who's our expert in assistive technology, you should check out our website. She's got a great resource for parents on there. She has a parent night coming up, and she's expanding her knowledge to support. We're again one of the only districts with students who are using the iGaze technology pretty proficiently with some of our students for communication, which is awesome. And she is expanding her knowledge to use to support staff with tools for dyslexia, which is becoming something that we really need to be on top of. So that's great. And then Abby Moinger, who is our behavior specialist, she's ADA certified, and we found that to be really helpful in some pretty significant cases where we need to support students in a different way. So I just wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out. And a plug for Be the Champion. We changed the name, so Be the Champions matches the t-shirts they wear, May 18th with a raid date of May 21st.
Any other questions for Carrie before we transition to elementary?
Thank you.
So last year, we began the process when I was here talking about ELA and the science of reading. We began the process of completing a comprehensive ELA curriculum review. Since then, we have had the opportunity, curriculum office working in alignment with Kate Franz. We've started by looking at 8 programs that were research-based. From there, we narrowed it down to 3 programs, which we brought to a curriculum committee, which was comprised of teachers from all different grade levels. Over the summer, the teachers had a full day to go through the curriculum, align the curriculum to the science of reading, and from there, they decided that they wanted to pilot one program. That program is Great Minds is the publisher. The program is Arts and Letters. So we are currently have 32 teachers in K through 6 that are piloting our ELA program. It's been extremely successful. We've had the opportunity to have several visits. Kate Franz has been in to classrooms to observe teachers and help further support them. We've had another rep from Great Minds that has come in. She's been a great support. She comes in and observes in all the different schools and in several classrooms. And Renee has been huge in this process and the support, setting up support after school in which the Great Minds rep comes in virtually, meets with teachers. They have the opportunity to work in breakout rooms, ask questions, brainstorm. So it's been very, very successful. So our goal moving forward next year is to, at the end of this year, is to talk with teachers, conclude our pilot, which is currently coming to a close. K2 is almost finished. 3-6 has a couple more weeks. But with that, we're looking to finalize and implement a plan and look for district-wide adoption of a new ELA program. So it's very exciting. Teachers have been very positive. We've also had an opportunity to work with Creative Leadership Solutions, Michelle Picard, who's been in classrooms looking at actual instruction, looking at the rigor of instruction across all 5 elementary schools. I've had the opportunity to walk with her, observe, and go into classrooms. She's done that as well at the secondary level. We're currently working on a comprehensive writing plan that we'll be rolling out sometime next year. We worked on collecting data over the past month. So the plan will start in the fall of 2026. This is our 2nd year of program implementation for Eureka Squared, and we're working in conjunction with partnership with Great Minds. The rep comes in, he works with us to collect data, also teacher observations, leadership data. This year, the data has shown mid-year collection of data has shown a sharp increase in the depth and frequency of the tool usage, the online tools since the start of the year, which is really reflective in growing, teacher confidence with the program. Also looking at across the district, there's been high academic expectations and the importance of grade level curriculum are some of the pieces that he's noticing when he comes in to visit, that all teachers are aligned to the grade level curriculum. They're using all of their resources, and we're seeing more students participating. We've also had the opportunity to create the tests and modify them for Beeville. So each child at the beginning of each student is taken a pre-assessment, and at the end of the year, we'll revisit that data. But following that pre-assessment, they modify and adjust their curriculum. And at the end of the year, what they're planning on doing is looking at pre-assessments for each grade level. So at the beginning of next year, so a 3rd grader going into 4th grade will take the pre-assessment in June to prepare that teacher to plan for the students for next year. Report cards, last year we worked on our report cards. This year was our first year that we transitioned to trimester reporting and standards-based report cards. We sent out a survey using our teacher insight to ensure the grading practices remained consistent, we're being transparent and accurately reflected student mastery across the district. So the next part to that is working to utilize the feedback from the first year, the reporting cycle, to refine the report cards, ensuring that they're clear, actionable data for families and educators. This year, some of you were able to attend the LEGO League. We were able to expand that to all students that registered for the after-school program, where typically it was 10 to 12 students. This year, all students that registered for LEGO League had the opportunity to participate in all of the schools. And we wanted them to have that experience in which they were able to attend the showcase, and the LEGO League only allows so many students to attend the showcase regionally. So we were able to have our own showcase within the district, so students were able to participate. Next year, our goal is to expand that a little more based on the feedback that LEGO League coaches provided and parents. We put out a survey following that event, so we're hoping to improve that and make it that much better. Battle of the Books this year, we had all of 3-6 in grade 8 participate, which was our first year that we've had that much participation. Next year we plan to expand it to 7th grade, so we'll be able to include the grade 7 and 8 in our district-wide competition. But that was a great event. Our students were really successful, and as you know, we had a Reynolds team and an Eldon team move on to the regional competition. Do you have any questions?
You received a lot of feedback on the parents for the trimester.
No, it's been positive. There's a few standards that we need to look at differently, but the feedback we've heard from the pilot teachers is the report cards in ELA in that area align even better to our pilot program. So it's a work in progress. As we said, we're going to look at it each year, bring a group of teachers in to make sure that it's a fluid report card and we're not just keeping it stagnant for 10 years.
Now transition to secondary.
So at the secondary level this year, we are continuing to see an increase in the number of students who are going to be eligible to receive our Seal of Civic Readiness and our Seal of Biliteracy. So the Seal of Civic Readiness has two parts to it: a knowledge part where students have successfully completed Regents level courses, and then a civic participation side of it where they're volunteering in the community, taking on leadership roles, creating community projects for the betterment of the community. We have done, our PIG teachers and PIG Apple Lit teachers have done a great job of weaving this into their curriculum so that we are able to have a significant number of students graduate with that Seal of Civic Readiness. So we are excited to see how many students complete it this year. We anticipate that it'll be a good chunk of our graduating class. For the Seal of Biliteracy, we have approximately 35 students who are working towards their seal in either one or potentially 2 languages for some of our students. These two things are very important as we think forward to our Portrait of a Graduate and what that might look like. We anticipate that this will be a great pathway opportunity that will align very well. So the more we can build it up now, the easier time we'll have kind of transitioning in the future. So this has been an important project this year. Project-based learning has occurred. We've continued professional development at all levels, K-12. Recently, over February break, we actually offered a PBL training to teachers. We had 9 teachers attend over break, so we continue to see an increase in that. We have about 88 teachers who are currently trained in project-based learning, which means our students are getting 1 to 2 PBL units per year. And getting to experience that side. We will continue to offer the training this summer as well. Also on our PDC days, we include like a brief overview where they can meet with coaches to review the lesson that they have implemented and make tweaks to the lessons for the following year. And you guys are going to get a great little preview of that tonight. New course offerings. So Project Lead the Way, we are in the process of putting together course proposals for a Project Lead the Way Advanced Manufacturing course that will be new for this upcoming school year, as well as a Project Lead the Way artificial intelligence course that we hope to be able to offer our students this fall. As of right now, those will fall under our kind of CTE pathways, but I think that that's something our students are going to be very interested in. The advanced manufacturing course really aligns with, I think, what we believe Micron might be looking for, and a step in that direction. That's a pretty heavy lift course. There's a lot of great information in there, things that I'm unfamiliar with, but our tech teachers one of them is going to be trained to offer the course, so we're excited to learn more about that and circuits and all that fun stuff. Any questions?
We'll now transition to accountability.
Hi everyone, I'm going to try to not replicate what's already been said, but when we do this, I kind of feel like, oh, I had my hands in the dental clinic and all these different things. In the past years, I've always started this presentation by thanking Mary Moyer, who was our district data manager, and she retired last year. So it's been a new world for me in terms of data collection, verification, and analysis. It's been wonderful having most of our district technology team over at the district office. Eric's been doing a great job, but even having Linda Marninger and Tom Liggett at my fingertips, or I guess me and Eric as well, we've really been able to collaborate a lot and ensure that our systems are working the way that they're supposed to be. You also heard Dr. Cook mention the importance of CNYRIC, our Central New York Regional Information Center. That's my world. I work with them just as much as I work with the people sitting around this table every day, ensuring that our data is accurate and verifying it before we send it up to the state for state reporting purposes. But data is certainly all-inclusive. I laughed a little when I mentioned that dental clinic data, but having people who are able to be tapped into to support the organization of something like that, or our hiring process, is very much needed, but also knowing that data positions can support many different aspects in regard to student achievement and enhancing teaching quality. So all things data typically come my way, and we work through it and we figure it out. So as you know, we have our interactive district report card available on our website. It's public facing, and we update that data each marking period, so we'll be updating that in just a couple of weeks here. Next month, April 20th, I'll be presenting, as I have the last couple of years, to give any updates related to our strategic plan, our assessment data, and again, revisit that interactive report card. The other piece I wanted to mention was that Eldon Elementary is still identified as a school in need of targeted support and improvement. It's not a new designation, they're just moving into year 2 of a 2-year process. So due to this, our district continues to be designated as a target district, but the state education department has provided some flexibility again this year in terms of using Eldon's improvement plan as our district's improvement plan, which is certainly helpful. And Melissa and I meet regularly with Joelle Fiorini, the principal over at Eldon, to ensure that that work continues to move forward. Some of the work that Melissa had mentioned in working with Creative Leadership Solutions has been worked into some of the grant funding for the current school year, and we'll continue to work with Eldon's team to determine what the funding for the 26-27 school year will be used toward. So using that to roll into just a couple of grant opportunities that I wanted to highlight. This is the final year of what had originally started as a 2-year New York State RETUBS grant that turned into a 3-year grant. So that grant awarded us about $560,000, which dedicated $1.2 million toward enhancing our mental health services. So again, many of the things that you already heard spoken to today: teen mental health first aid, youth mental health first aid, TCIS training, having Promise Zone student engagement specialists and our Liberty Resources therapists are just some examples of what that funding has been able to provide us with. We continue to look for some other options of replacing those funds that we've received through RECUBs, whether it's through Project Aware or SAMHSA grant, we'll keep those options open. But we certainly took advantage of using those funds, and you heard Carrie speak a little bit to some of the accolades of having that Team Mental Health First Aid program up and running, and really all of our secondary students trained in Team Mental Health First Aid has been huge. Also grant related, this year we're expecting an increase in the dollar amount we receive from New York State for our universal pre-kindergarten program, so we'll continue to watch the state budget process, but we look forward to seeing our dollar amount per student increase from about $6,000 to $10,000. It sounds like a lot, but it really just helps us cover what portion we weren't funded through the grant, but looking at any extra funds and how we might be able to use those to best support our 4-year-old students. Lastly, our capital improvement project, again, not to reiterate everything that you've heard, but I can't emphasize enough how intertwined our enrollment data and our student projections are with that work, ensuring that as we continue to proceed through the project, that we're keeping a very close eye on our universal pre-K enrollments, our kindergarten enrollments, and how we are really trying to keep students limiting those transitions as much as we possibly can, but acknowledging that we know that those transitions also have to take place. So keeping an eye on the timelines, on the schedules, those are things certainly in my wheelhouse, and it's been a great opportunity for me to see how we collaborate with our architects, our construction managers, and so forth. So I will be back in just about a month, and I'll share a much more detailed data picture with all of you.
Shifting to technology.
Okay, so this could be redundant, like Danielle said, but it really kind of nails it by just looking at that first statement there. Comprehensive support for everyone in this room really kind of goes in our world every single day. From individualizing and personalizing instruction, really getting to the teacher's needs, to the student needs, utilizing our learning management systems, our Google Workspace platforms, our Google Classroom, our Seesaw platforms. Expanding this year our ClassLink Launchpad. Not only does that provide us one sync technology where teachers can reset their passwords at home, never get stuck, right? That resetting ability so that they have access to all their technological needs. But that ClassLink Launchpad has been expanding to enhance the access to online textbooks. For example, CLET, our German textbook, was added this year. Beanstack to increase reading challenges, digital reading challenges. Sooth, which is research without ads and things getting in the way so that students can stay focused. And then, just like you saw with everyone, there's a couple of colleagues in the room, but I think Rick Foderer is one of the key people I communicate and stay in sync with day in and day out. I think we need to stay in communication all the time because of construction needs. So, when walls are open, it's easier to pull networking cables, get cameras and things installed in buildings. Some of the facility enhancements that you are seeing, this room this year was touched, so we have updated control panels, ability to segregate the room with ceiling sensors behind my head so that you can have 2 rooms going at once. That room next to us just got hit up last week, and then today we did debugging and programming. So we have opportunities to not only have in-person but virtual trainings. So I have 2 cameras in the ceiling in that room, and if you glance at it, you'll be in there next. There's a X in the ceiling now. You have a Sennheiser microphone in the ceiling, so we just upgraded that room. But really, it's really trying to get with all of our departments and really enhance that that access to cutting edge technology. Some other things that I can highlight before I get into the next part there is that we are getting into the next phase of facility enhancements with some of the capital projects that Tiffany talked about with the Durkee Cafe. That's going to be spectacular. We're going to have 4 big panels along the wall for students to have announcements all day long. There's going to be a big screen in there for mirroring some of the technology, so when we have community events, some of the bigger events in there, that we can kind of mirror that digital display. So really exciting things are coming down the pipe. Sitting in sync with this guy over here with huddle cameras to enhance our facilities, marching band competitions and things like that. So super exciting. But it brings us to that next point at the bottom there. You can't do anything without a really strong network. You heard Dr. Cook talk about it. We're in focus groups with 50 districts. We just started that this past month. We had our first focus group at the CineRIC. We're talking about strengthening that wide area network, that wireless access network. But really, you can't do enhanced teaching. You can't enhance the learning without enhancing the network. So this year, we made sure that every single classroom went from 300 series to at least the 500 access point series. We have access points that can enhance outside spaces. So really, I have to commend my networking team, Tom and Andrew, really upgrading, getting into the classrooms and doing that kind of stuff. We also transitioned to the Aruba Central, so we're in the cloud-based management of those access points. So we know when an access point goes down, so we can get to a classroom need. We can get, I get emails all day long. Renee knows about network outages. The wind today at Palmer, we were right on it. We got Palmer back up to speed. But really, just making sure we're up and running is the key piece in my world. And that doesn't go without said with all of our safety and security. So I have to really be cognizant of data privacy agreements, especially with special education and communicative devices, making sure that I have those agreements in place so that we're protecting staff, we're protecting our students, we're not letting breaches happen, attacked by foreign entities, right, like Dr. Cook talked about. So, but, just day in and day out, whatever comes to us, we keep it up and running. So that's the key piece. So, thank you. Any questions?
Last but not least, visual and performing arts.
I guess the moment you've all been waiting for. Closer tonight. So I want to start by giving a shout out to everybody that's here, because you think about all that goes on in the community, and you think about everything that everybody here does to support students in this school community. There's not a person that sits at this table that doesn't give their entire heart and soul to it. So I'm sitting here, I'm listening to everybody, and I've been in the district for a long time, and I'm a little overwhelmed with pride when I see the work, and because I work with these folks all the time, and I'm really proud to be a part of this group. So that's just had to be said. And I wanted to say, I wanted to give a shout out. You've met some of our student artists that have been on, the radar and done great things with Scholastics. I want to give our students a shout out. We have kids that represented us at the Syracuse St. Patrick's Day Parade, which is a huge tradition in central New York, really. And I think it's even recognized maybe as like the largest St. Patrick's Day Parade in the U.S., right? So it's a big celebration. We have kids that coming up soon. We've started to advertise, get the word out. There's going to be a community performance for our winter programs. Pep Band, Guard, and Drumline are going to perform at Durkee on Friday, March 27th. So we want to get that word out to people and hope to see people there to support our kids. And the other plug is this weekend we do have Radium Girls, the senior high school play, which is going to be staged in the Baker High School Auditorium and Theater, so you're not going to want to miss that. So a lot of really great things doing. I want to recognize our students for all the effort that they're putting into the programs that we're offering. As far as an update for the department, we have a lot of exciting things going on. I want to start by talking a little bit about the state is providing opportunities now for pathways, as Mrs. Morgan had kind of explained. One of the great things that is coming down the pipeline is a pathway for students to get a high school diploma on a pathway that is focused on the arts, which is just huge. And I know our staff is super excited about how this just totally, I mean, in this district, we've known for a long time how important the arts and art education is for all students. But to have at the state level this recognition that, guess what? Students that are taking pathways and courses and doing these arts classes in our schools are going to have opportunities to be on a graduation track in the arts, which is fantastic. So we're in the process of doing curriculum alignment, you know, to make sure that all of our elementary and secondary curriculum is vertically aligned to the standards and communicated in such a way that it shows how everything builds upon the, you know, what comes before it. So curriculum is aligned in such a way so that everything lines up with the courses and the pathways that are, you know, that are going to be happening at the secondary level, you know, for our students that are choosing these pathways for graduation.
How far are we on that?
The plan really is to start, and there will be a retroactive piece to this. So kids, we already have an approved pathway, but we're really in the process of, you know, putting the articulation of the rollout by like this fall.
So it's statewide, it's a possibility already.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but we're ahead of where other districts are in the process. I mean, there's districts regionally that are, you know, that are putting stuff together that we're learning from, but we're in a good spot as far as our timeline. But really, we'll be putting this together so that all of our counselors know, our staff knows what the deal is, and our students will be informed of how this will all work. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and so we are working with kind of the experts in the region that are helping the district kind of put together a plan, working with our staff to do all of that work.
Sorry, just curious. So if we had a kid that was particularly gifted, say in an instrument or something like that, and wanted to pursue that, there would be the opportunity, even if we had to go outside our district staff-wise, to maybe give some enhanced training specifically at a higher level that would count towards curriculum. Is that how that would work?
I think the state is providing a lot of flexibility for us to design the plan the way that we want it, and that means that there will be all kinds of opportunities for us to kind of look at, and even independent study will be part of, you know, what we can offer students. You know, if you had a student that played a rare instrument or something and they had mastered it because of all the stuff they were doing outside of school, there would be a pathway based upon the plan that we put together that will allow students to be able to use that for credit. Which is, you know, it's a testament to the state and the work that they've been doing to try and to get this, you know, going. So that's very exciting. As far as, you know, one of the big things that we've done here to address equity, especially from the perspective of what we're able to offer students in our district, the instrument purchase program that we've implemented here for the last few years is, I mean, it's amazing, right? And there are other districts that are asking, you know, to see how we've been able to manage to put it together, and just the work that everybody here has done at the board level and district cabinet level to make these decisions and make this stuff happen. It's incredible, you know, it really is, and such an opportunity for our kids. So we're in a good spot. We're continuing with that instrument purchase program for our 3rd grade students that will start at strings, and our 4th grade students to start band instruments. We're kind of predicting that we're, you know, after a few years of doing this now, we're starting to build up kind of a, you know, a good stock of instruments that, you know, there is attrition as students move from building to building, and so, you know, we're hoping that, and kind of forecasting that the size of that instrument purchase will start to get smaller each year as we, you know, have built up the stock of instruments.
Have we seen an increase in participation because of it?
Yeah.
Pretty drastic.
So, well, you gotta remember too, the last time was based on, you know, coming off from COVID, so we're going down from that. But, yeah, we're well beyond where we were pre-COVID with our numbers.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, we're seeing that absolutely at the elementary level, and just like Dr. DeBarbery said, I think post-COVID, we're starting to see, you know, the numbers of students involved, not just in our instrument programs, but even at, you know, in our chorus ensembles, for example. Those have started to recoup post-COVID as well. So this stuff is taking some time, but, you know, we're in a good spot. So, and then the other thing I wanted to mention was, just now, you know, this being a brand new office, right, the Office of Visual and Performing Arts. We're doing a lot this year with just kind of monitoring and assessing our procedures, right? There's a lot of stuff that works well, and then there's a lot of stuff that we really want to try and tighten up to make things more efficient. You know, we've worked with Mrs. Cazzoli on getting Family ID set up for our appropriate programs, so we're taking a lot of notes from how our athletic department functions with our, you know, with our athletic teams, and just putting systems in place so that there are, you know, consistent protocols that make sense, that allow for, again, efficiencies. And I think that puts us in a spot where we can really start, you know, talking about what our program should look like over the next, you know, 3, 5, 10 years, right? And so I'm part of a regional group of fine arts directors. We meet monthly. So we share a lot of ideas. We talk a lot about what programs different districts are offering. And, you know, we want to continue as the Baldwinsville Bees to be on the front end and the cutting edge of what is offered. I will tell you that one of the exciting things that we've put together with the assistance and leadership of Adam Karki, our strengths teacher at the high school, is basically a club for modern band. So he meets with kids weekly, and we've got kids that are playing bass and electric guitar and keyboards and you know, and singing. And at the state level, like our NISMA Association and All County and All State, all of these organizations that are providing performance opportunities for kids are also starting to now get on board with seeing students that are in modern band programs in school districts be able to perform and compete. So we're on the front end of having that be a club, and I think we'll see, you know, a point where we'll start to see curriculum and that come next. So.
Any questions for Chris or questions for the group?
Well, as always, when we think we know what's going on in the district, you guys come and tell us all this extra stuff that you're doing. So it's pretty amazing, all the activities you have going on, and the collaboration is most impressive. That's the biggest thing I think I've seen in changing over the last couple of years, is the collaboration, which is so important. It's all about teamwork, isn't it? So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. And I guess with that, we're ready to adjourn our work session for this evening, correct? Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you.